The United States has one of the most active and controversial police forces in the world. It also has the most militarized force in the world, excluding those countries where the military is the police force. The line between officer and soldier can often be blurred in America, what with all of the armor, vehicles, and of course, guns. There were over 50,000 SWAT raids in 2015, around 79% of which were targeted at private residences. It's become common practice for police responses to involve tear gas and weapons that would pass for being in a war zone. This change from truncheon and revolver to automatic weapons and battering rams is what we'll be discussing in this episode of Stuff. Ever since 1829, when the first police force was formed in London, policing has become more and more militarized, and nowhere is this more noticeable than in the United States of America. Whole movies have been made about it, such as the unimaginatively named SWAT starring Colin Farrell and Samuel L. Jackson. Now, we aren't here to discuss the differences between 19th and 21st century policing, more the 1980s to present day. So, let's travel back in time, to a time of Michael Jackson when he was still black, taking a picture with E.T., Mr. T, classic Nintendo, massive phones, no internet, and of course, the mullet. I pray to Jeff Kaplan every day that does not come back. If you don't play Overwatch, Jeff Kaplan is the lead designer of Overwatch, and everyone who plays Overwatch worships him as a god. But I digress. Prior to the 1986 FBI Miami shootout, the Colt L-frame double-action .357 Magnum was the weapon of choice, with 18 rounds on a service belt for officers to defend themselves with against much of the same threats as today. SWAT teams existed, and they were deployed approximately 3,000 times in 1980. In 2015, this had increased by 17 times that, and the number of SWAT teams in cities with populations between 25,000 and 50,000 had quadrupled since 1980. Moving on to the 90s, Congress passed a version of the National Defense Authorization Act that allowed the US military to transfer military gear to police departments that are suitable for use in counter-drug activities, in the wake of an ever-rising crime rate, the fall of which I'll be covering in my next video. Moving to post-9/11 America, the Department of Homeland Security distributed a total of $35 billion in grants to police departments, and the 1033 program allowed the US Defense Department to distribute surplus military equipment at a value of approximately $415 million in 2013. Considering the United States was in debt of $14.764 trillion as of February 2014, being able to spend that much money on grants just goes to prove that money doesn't exist, but that's another topic for another time. While I don't have a problem with paramilitary police, there are situations that require it. I do have a problem with the willingness to use them for such relatively insignificant matters, such as breaking up poker games and raiding bars that are suspected of serving underage drinkers. And then there was Ferguson, Missouri. In August 2014, 18-year-old Michael Brown was shot and killed by police despite being unarmed. For the full story, look at a news website. The protest that followed brought this response. Officers in more gear than some soldiers in the Middle East pointing rifles at protests. Scriven King, a 10-year veteran of the US Air Force's law enforcement sector, commented that the K-9 units played on racist imagery that the department was apparently unaware of. Jason Fritz, a former Army officer and international policing operations analyst, said about the tactics used that that's not controlling a crowd, that's intimidating it. Apparently, the American people, by a small majority, have had enough, 58% according to a Reason Group poll in December 2013. Even politicians have had enough. Democrat Alan Grayson of Florida sponsored an amendment preventing the US military from transferring everything from silencers to nuclear weapons. In typical American governance fashion, it failed, without a single House leader voting for it, with those opposing the bill receiving 73% more in donations from the defense industry than those who supported it. However, the former President Barack Obama passed an executive order barring the military from providing things like aircraft, including the unmanned ones, toxicological agents, and of course nuclear weapons in May of 2015. Now it's time to know what you think. Has the police force in the United States become too militarized? Leave a comment on this video with your thoughts on what you liked and didn't like. If If you enjoyed this video, do leave a like as it helps my channel grow and get noticed. If you enjoyed it so much that you want to subscribe, go ahead, do it. It'll make me feel much better about myself. So until next time, have fun, and I'll see you later.